The pirates had been tracking the ship for days. Their leader, a six-eyed brute named Crag, watched the Starliners approach from the cockpit of their battered raider. "Easy pickings," Crag growled, cybernetic tail twitching. "Tourists, soft, scared. We'll be legends after this haul." His crew, Skrin, a wiry hacker with a nervous tick, and Voss, a silent enforcer, nodded. The haul that Crag was anticipating was the collection, aka abduction and confinement, of a new exotic species. Crag's employer would pay big credits for such a valuable specimen. They'd heard stories about this newly discovered species, but had never met one. The Encyclopedia of Galactic Life had little to say about them except unpredictable and handle with care. But Crag dismissed the description with practiced arrogance. "They're new. They won't fight." The pirates breached the hull with alarming efficiency, slipping through the corridors like shadows. As they reached the lounge, Crag felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. He loved this moment, the moment before panic, the hush, the power in his voice. "Nobody move." The Starliner Aurora Dreaming glided through the velvet dark, its hull shimmering with the reflected light of Saturn's rings. Inside, the lounge was a riot of colour and sound. Passengers from every corner of the galaxy mingled, their voices blending into a symphony of excitement and curiosity. Near the panoramic window, a trio of feathered Xantari snapped holopics of the icy moon Enceladus, their crests bobbing with anticipation. A pair of crystalline Valorians debated the best angle to view the geysers, their bodies refracting the starlight into rainbows. In the corner, a hulking Goran, built like a boulder but trembling like jelly, and clutching a guidebook entitled Enceladus for Beginners, nervously glancing at the emergency exits every few seconds. And, sprawled across a battered recliner, feet up and thongs dangling, was Wukker Sturgis. Sun-bleached hair, skin tanned by 1,000 Queensland summers, and a grin that said no Wukkers to the universe. Wukker's shirt bore the faded logo of the long-reach Jackaroos, and his duffel bag was patched with emblems from outback stations and interstellar rodeos. On Earth, Wukker Sturgis was a bit of a legend in his own right, though mostly in places where the roads turned to red dust. The only thing more common than roadkill was a cold beer, and the nearest Wi-Fi was a rumour told by grey nomads. Born under the blazing Queensland sun, Wukker grew up mustering cattle, dodging swooping magpies, and winning every bush foot race by running barefoot over gravel that would make most buggers weep. He worked every odd job from outback rodeo clown to solar farm wrangler, and somewhere along the way picked up a knack for getting out of trouble with nothing but a grin and whatever he had at hand. When the chance came to hitch a ride on the Aurora Dreaming, Wukker figured the stars couldn't be much wilder than the Gulf country, and if they were, well, no worries, she'll be right. Back in the observation lounge of the Aurora Dreaming, Wukker watched the tourists with amusement. "Fair dinkum, this mob's more excited than a ruin of veggie patch," he muttered, sipping a cup of synth coffee. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. The lounge fell silent. The intercom crackled, the captain's voice tight. Attention passengers, we're experiencing a security situation. Please remain in the lounge and await further instructions." A low metallic thud echoed through the hull. The Xantari froze, feathers bristling. The Valorians' bodies dimmed to a worried grey. The Goran whimpered, curling tighter into their seat. The silence stretched, thick and uneasy. Then another thud, closer this time. The doors to the lounge hissed open and 3 figures strode in. Pirates. Their leader was a towering brute with 6 eyes and a cybernetic tail that twitched with menace. The others, smaller but no less dangerous, brandished plasma cutlasses and wore battered armor patches with the insignias of a dozen outlaw clans. "Nobody move," the leader barked, voice booming. "This ship is now under our control." The lounge was a powder keg of nerves. As Crag's demand echoed, the Zentari pressed to their crests flat in terror. The Valorians flickered between shades of panic, their crystalline bodies casting frantic rainbows across the floor. The Goran, clutching their guidebook so tightly it began to crack, whimpered, "I knew I should have taken the shuttle to EO instead." For a moment, it seemed the pirates' menace would win. The passengers shrank back, and even the ship's AI dimmed the lights as if bracing for trouble. "Hand over the human, and you won't be harmed." The Zentari huddled together, eyes wide. The Valorians flickered in distress. The Goran tried to disappear further into their seat and guidebook. Wukker, meanwhile, slid his feet back into his pluggers and stood up, stretching as if he'd just woken from a nap. "Crikey, mate, you blokes look like you've been dragged through a Spinifex patch backwards. What's the drama?" The pirates blinked, thrown by the accent and the casual attitude. Scrin glanced at Crag, uncertain. Voss shifted his weight, sensing something off. Crag pressed on, determined to show strength. "You're coming with us, human," said Crag, finally finding his overbearing voice. "This is a robbery, and you are the treasure." Wukker looked chuffed and smilingly coy. He sauntered forward, thongs slapping against the deck. "Fair income? Well, that's very flattering, mate, but where I come from it's polite to buy a bloke a beer first, hey?" The Zentari gasped. "Is he mad?" The Goran peeked out. "Humans are strange." Crag advanced, plasma cutlass raised, his cybernetic tail flashing with anticipation. Scrin's fingers danced nervously over a hacking device, ready to lock down the exits. Voss loomed, blocking the only escape route. Wukker glanced around, catching the wide-eyed stares of the aliens. He winked at the Zentari, then stretched, rolling his shoulders, as if preparing for a backyard cricket match. "Reckon it's time to show these blokes how we handle a sticky wicket," he murmured. The pirate lunged. Wukker sidestepped, flicking off a plugger. With a practiced flick, he sent it spinning, smacking the pirate square on the snout. The brute howled, dropping his weapon. The pain was sharp, but the humiliation was worse. Scrin and Voss hesitated, thrown by the human's banter and bizarre weaponry. "Oi, settle down, mates. You ever tried mustering cattle in a dust storm? This is a walk in the park." Wukker grinned, catching his plugger and slipping it back on. Then, with a wink at the Valorians, he added, "You mob all right? Just a couple of galahs here, nothing to worry about." Crag advanced again, his suit's exhaust vents puffing steam. Wukker, quick as a whip, again slipped off one plugger and lobbed it with uncanny precision. The thong sailed through the air and wedged itself perfectly into Crag's exhaust port. The suit sputtered, pressure building, and Crag staggered, wheezing. What did you do?" he gasped. "Mate, you're more plugged up than a dunny after a footy grand final. No wonder you're looking a bit strained," Wukker quipped, earning a nervous giggle from the Zentari. Scrin, the wiry hacker, raised his plasma rifle, aiming at Wukker, but Wukker was already moving. He hooked his remaining thongs band around a nearby chair leg, stretched it like a slingshot, and let fly. The thong whipped through the air, catching the rifle's barrel and yanking it from Scrin's grip. The weapon clattered to the floor, and Scrin yelped, clutching his empty hands. "You call that a plasma rifle? Mate, I've seen more firepower in a mozzie zapper at a Christmas barbie." Voss, the silent enforcer, lunged at Wukker, but Wukker sidestepped, using his thong band to hook under Voss's lower enviro-suit clip. The enforcer's space trousers were suddenly at his knees, and he toppled like a felled tree, landing with a thud. "There you go, mate." The lounge erupted in cheers. The Centauri snapped hollow picks, the Valorians flickered with admiration, and even the Goran managed a shaky thumbs up. Crag, still sputtering, glared at Wukker. You use footwear?" Wukker grinned, retrieving his pluggers. "No sense bringing a bulldozer to dig up a spud." The pirates, trussed up with extension cords and thoroughly humiliated, could only stare in disbelief as Wukker dusted off his thongs and slipped them back on. From that day, the legend of the human with the deadly pluggers spread across the galaxy. And every time a tourist ship passed through the rings of Saturn, someone would inevitably say, "No Wukkers, the humans are here."